Hey everyone, welcome back to Magic the Gathering with Sim. Last week we talked about mana colors and islands and the different types of colors there are. There were 5. This week we are going to learn different types of cards used in Magic, and there are 6, not including mana cards. So we are going to talk about 6 different cards, and we're going to start with creatures, but let me tell you all the different card types first. There are creatures, sorcery, instant, artifact, enchantment, and planeswalkers. Alright, let's start with creatures. Okay, creature cards are your most basic attacking and defense cards. They're spell cards, everything is a spell, and they can be anything from an imp to an alien to an angel. Just depends on the color of deck you're using and what kind of basic strategy you're trying to use. So each of these cards at the bottom right, you can see that they have a defense and attack counter. So I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so right here you see it has a 2/1 on this, and they all have like a different attack on the bottom right. So just remember that the attack always goes first on your card, and then it is your shield. So okay, so let me tell you about these creature cards a little bit. Every creature card is different and they can do crazy things. So I have a white creature card here. His name is Herald of the Fair. And when Herald of the Fair enters the battlefield, the target creature you control gets +1/+1 till the end of turn. And what that means is that +1/+1 is added to the bottom attack here, so he will now be a 4/3 instead of a 3/2. Alright, we have a couple other creature cards here. We have an Eldrazi. He's a type of alien, and his name is the Endless One. And it says the Endless One enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. Okay, so here, X is the amount of mana you use to summon this creature. So if I use 4 mana to summon this creature, then he'll be a 4/4 +1/1, so he'll be a 5/5. He's a really strong character if you use him correctly. And then we have some basic cards that don't use like colored mana, like our Field Creeper here. He is a basic. He doesn't have a specific color, so he can be used in any deck. He doesn't have any special conditions. He's just a 2/1 Scarecrow. Alright, so that's creature cards. Now we're going to move on to sorcery spells. Alright, so sorcery spells are a spell you cast directly from your hand on your turn only. This is a one-time effect, and after you use it, it gets thrown away into your graveyard. So here are a few sorcery cards I have. They all have a special condition, and remember, you can only use them on your turn. So I have some blues, reds, and blacks here, and let me read a couple of them to you so you can kind of understand what a sorcery spell does. So we have Furious Reprisal. Furious Reprisal deals 2 damage to each target creature and or players. So that means that I can cast a spell on my turn, and it'll take away 2 damage from either 2 creatures or 2 different players, depending on how many people you're playing with. Alright, we have some blue creatures, or sorceries, and they do, usually blue is their counter spells, so they can attack people directly or add more people to your army. So, Rise of the Tides puts 2/2 black zombie creature tokens on your battlefield. So that means that you can add 2 zombies to your army, and you can use them anytime you want. But remember, after you use this card, it gets thrown away. And if your zombies die, then they go to the graveyard as well. Alright, so that is sorcery spells. Next, let's move to instants. Instants are just like sorcery spells, except you can use them anytime. You can use them on your turn or your opponent's turn, anytime during the battle. So let's say your opponent is attacking you, and you want to counter them. You can use an instant card on their turn before they attack to try to get rid of what they're about to do. So here's a couple instance cards, and let me read a few of them. So blue, this blue one is a counter spell. It's called Convolute, and it counters a target spell unless its controller pays 4 mana. So you have to pay 4 mana, or your opponent pays 4 mana so that they don't get their spell countered. That's a really good one. And then we have some really strong ones like this white creature. He's Smite of the Monstrous, and he destroys any target creature with power 4 or greater. So he can pretty much wipe out any really strong creature, which is really great for the game. Okay, so those are instances, and now we're going to move on to enchantments. Enchantments are kind of weird. They work like a spell or a sorcery card, but instead they play indefinitely until your opponent can get rid of them. So they stay on the battlefield until someone directly tries to get rid of them. And they usually attach to a person or an army member. So here are our enchantments. We have a few different options, and let's read a couple of them. So Goblin Warpaint allows you to attach this card to one of your creatures, and it gives your creature +2/+2. So that's really good and gives your player a lot of strength. Then we have Angelic Gift. You enchant a creature with Angelic Gift, and you can draw a card anytime somebody plays a card onto the battlefield. So if you need to keep drawing a lot of cards to gain health, this is the card you want to use. Okay, so that's what enchantments look like. Now let's move on to artifacts. Artifacts are just like enchantments, except they are physical things like weapons or vehicles or clothing items for a soldier. So here are our artifacts. Okay, so here's a vehicle that I was talking about, and it literally only does one thing. It just adds flying to your character, which means that nobody can touch your character unless it has a reach movement. We have an equipment, so we have a weapon here, and this one gives your person +3 or +0. And then we have a regular artifact that just lets you draw a card. So every time you use this in the game and you tap it to play, you get a card. Last but not least, and probably the strongest cards you'll use in Magic the Gathering, are Planeswalkers. Now, I know we talked about us being the Planeswalker, but sometimes you need a little help from a friend, a Planeswalker, to help you win the game. So, Planeswalkers are very special condition. They are really strong soldiers, and you can only use them very sparingly in a game, and there is a lot to them. Here, I'll show you an example. Here is Chandra. She is a fire mage, and you can see that she has 3 different types of attack movements here. Now, Planeswalkers are very complicated, and we have a whole entire lesson to talk about them. So we will talk about that next time. Well, that is all the different types of cards for Magic the Gathering, and next time we will talk more about Planeswalkers and what each card means. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys next week.